Morning, how are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you? Good morning. This is Erin with the Department of Medicaid. It's not quite 9 o'clock, and we'll give it just a few minutes while we clean out or clear out, not clean out, excuse me, the waiting room. So far, I've got Kristen, Steve, and Nathan on. If I missed any TAC members while they were logging in, please just let me know.
Steve, this is Kristen. I wanted to let you know too, I'll have my camera on at the beginning when we're voting and doing the minutes and all of that, but I will have to be off camera the rest of the meeting. I'm going to be driving from one location to another, so I just wanted to give you a heads up.
No,
All right. Good morning, everyone. It is now officially 9 o'clock. I have Steve, Brandon, Van, Casey, Kristen, excuse me, and Nathan. Did I miss any members logging in?
that's what I
Okay. We need one more for a quorum, so I'll keep an
am.
eye out as the waiting room clears out.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get started.
Here comes Adrian. So
All
you should have a
right.
quorum.
So we have more. Appreciate that. Let's go ahead. Minutes were sent out from the November meeting. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
Brandon, so move.
Thank you, Brandon. And a second.
Van, I'll second.
All in favor, Jim saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed and nay. So we have our minutes approved. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And I saw Angela Sparrow somewhere. Anyway, Medicaid update. Is that you, Angela?
Yeah, Steve, it's me. Good morning, everybody.
How are you?
Looks like I'm good. I was going to say, it looks like a few of you all might be traveling this morning, which I'm glad that we've had some warmer, nicer days to be out and about. So those things we take as a win. And so again, it's good to see. Just to provide some updates around the 1115 reentry demonstration. Again, a great deal of work continues to occur as we move forward in the progress and implementation progress. So again, we have not heard anything back from CMS, just so everybody's aware, around the deliverables that we submitted last fall. So the implementation plan or monitoring protocol reinvestment plan, we haven't heard any response. which isn't abnormal. And so again, we have communicated some questions and received some responses, but specifically around those documents, again, just no feedback at this time. They continue.
It's my understanding that maybe people get distracted in DC.
Yes. So they again, reassure us that they'll let us know if they have any questions or need anything or if they have any feedback. So but we do keep that on the radar, on the agenda to ask. So we are continuing our work groups with DOC and DJJ, again, really around some of those policy procedures and what implementation will look like, doing some of those program design sessions. We've kind of kicked off again, pharmacy work group, looking at the 30-day supply of medications at the time that the individuals are released. So we're working again with DOC and DJJ pharmacy vendor on that as well. And part of those discussions, our pharmacy team within DMS to also help guide those discussions. And so again, kind of comparing the formularies, if there's any concerns there, how are they aligning, addressing that again. How are we notifying the vendor of their now again reimbursable medications through Medicaid? What are those system changes? So all of those conversations continue to occur. We again are, with that being said, drafting requirements for system changes. So for example, there will be changes that we'll need to make to our eligibility system. So how are we identifying the reentry population, the CAA population eligible for these services in that pre-release timeframe? So again, having those discussions, kind of walking through those options and what that can look like. And again, go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
In that meeting we were in yesterday, they were discussing aged out foster youth 18 to 26 and how they could identify those and verify that was the case. Is that an issue for us?
No, it's the same for all states, Van. The former foster care youth, they do self-attest. So that is the same, and that has been the case. So we do capture that on the Medicaid application and during that process. That is something that our correctional partners have not typically captured. So again, that is part of that work and some of those changes to make amendments to that process of asking that information along again with through that eligibility screening process, that's a part of that. So
Okay.
yeah, because that's something that the correctional facilities do not currently know. So that's something for those that are currently eligible for services, we kind of have to go back and verify eligibility and if they were former foster care deceived. So those are part of the changes that will be incorporated with the reentry implementation, that's part of the process up front. But yes, so those are the system changes. Those changes are being discussed again, drafting those requirements. So that would be an eligibility system, our MMIS billing claiming system, med impact with our pharmacy. So again, lots of systems that we know within Medicaid, but not just again within Medicaid, but with our correctional partners. So again, working with them all on those pieces, and again, pulling in MCOs. The changes again are certainly going to have an impact to their systems as well. So again, working on drafting those requirements for those discussions. Again, along with the MCOs, kicking off some work group sessions with MCOs, and again around requirements, expectations, case management, kind of drafting out that case management service. So those we've had some kind of preliminary discussions, but that work group I think is kicking off next week, and then pulling them in with some of the other discussions with DOC and DJJ. We again also continue to work with Mercer, so just want to continue to get their name out there, who is the independent evaluator of the demonstration, and again their evaluation design. So how again are they going to assess, monitor the program? And so again, many of you all in some of the other forums, core team, Acres group, you'll see that they're going to start being a part of those, kind of just listening, getting a feel for the program, for the partners, and again, what is the plan for implementation. So continue to work with Mercer on that and what that looks like. We do, Van again, continue to participate in the NASHB HARP Learning Collaborative, which again is a good opportunity to hear from other states. Certainly, many of these discussions are happening across the nation, and so they're having the same questions that we're having. Some are in different spots in implementation, and some are just beginning. So again, having that opportunity in that space to hear from other states has been important, I think, in bringing ideas and lessons learned back to the table as well. But I'm going to pause. I think there's been a lot going on. Will continue to go on. So again, we'll continue to work through this quarter into next quarter, and really some of those again design decisions that still need to be made, system changes, and then hopefully work towards more of those deployment of changes, readiness through the summer into fall implementation. Any questions?
Yeah, I'll say, I just want to cover this. The reentry population, are they eligible as a standalone, or are they part of the expansion population?
So I think again, the reentry 1115 that population could be a combination of expansion or anyone. So again, it's not just the expansion.
Okay. The reason I ask, one is now, legislation that there's a community engagement requirement for that population, or will be, how that impacts this. And two, obviously there's all sorts of speculation of what happens at the federal level. And is the expansion population, that match rate target, things like that, and will that have a negative impact on some folks who could participate in this? We're hoping no, but I think we don't know that. But I know the community engagement piece will be a requirement, and what is, that shouldn't be a big challenge, I don't think, but I do believe that's going to be something we have to pay attention to.
Agreed. Those are all things that we'll continue to monitor, but as you mentioned, lots of speculations, but nothing definite. No changes have been made as of to date, so certainly we'll continue to monitor. But yes, what any of those impacts could be.
Other questions, folks, from anybody?
I did forget to mention, it wasn't, specifically to the reentry 1115, but part of reentry initiatives around CAA. So again, I think we had touched some on, but again, we are also beginning to have interviews with local jails around the CAA population and requirements. So again, we had completed the initial survey, had received response from over half of the jails, which was great. And again, we'll continue to give DOC lots of credit and for support there in facilitating those responses and connecting us. But so we are also conducting one-on-one interviews with jails that did respond to that survey so that we can get, again, more granular into those survey results, information, and again, trying to determine how they align with CAA requirements, where they are, and again, kind of be able to move forward and how to onboard the jails. But in a part of those interviews, we are asking some questions around the reentry services so that we can better know and prepare for any potential, expansion in the future. So again, taking advantage of that opportunity as we start those conversations and open up those channels with those facilities. So we have had a handful of those interviews, and those will continue through the end of March and probably into mid-April. So, but the ones that we've spoke to so far, again, have been receptive and in talking with us and again, sharing information and wanting to know more about the CAA requirements and projects. So good things there.
No questions. Let's move on. Hep C treatment update. Anything new or still ongoing discussions?
Correct. No new updates. Again, I think that could probably play in and will play into those case management discussions, I think.
Taking notes. House Bill 789 creates the changes the MAC, creates the Beneficiary Advisory Council. Doesn't look like it's going anywhere. Any discussion of that? As I understand, the Beneficiary Advisory Council is a federal requirement. There's some discussion whether actually that will be maintained or not. But for folks on the call, that is, the MAC is a Medicaid Advisory Council. This is a council made up of beneficiaries, family members, or representatives. I understand, the composition of it. And over time, a third of the Medicaid Advisory Council members will also be back members to focus on the beneficiary piece of it. And I just didn't know if there's an update, Angela or someone else, but the bill hadn't gone anywhere, which tells me that and it needs legislation to make changes to the MAC. The Beneficiary Advisory Council doesn't need legislation necessarily. But I've heard what it looks like it was a final rule that was issued at some point, and that may be rescinded, obviously, or could be. But you haven't heard that. You're not involved in those discussions.
No, again, not directly, but those are all of the things that we continue to monitor, both at state and federal at this time. So any of those, but again, most of these are speculations and until there have been no definite changes. So all of those things continue to be monitored.
Yeah, and the bill didn't go anywhere, which tells me that someone in the General Assembly doesn't think it's necessary to maintain. Because I think the back right now, I don't know when the start date is required, but sounds like people believe that may change. And Medicaid, but other folks have said we don't know if that's going to be a requirement. So, all right, any questions for our friend Angela? All right, let's go to MCO updates.
Steve, Jonathan Scott is hopping on if you wanted to ask
yeah.
your MAC back question again.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stuart, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Is Jonathan on?
I was wondering about House Bill 789 too, Steve, because I think it's 7125 is when the back has to
Yeah.
get funding. So I thought, okay, the legislature's not moving it. What's the problem here?
That can be done through a regulation.
Okay.
Changes to the MAC cannot be.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
that's
right.
a statute. and
Yeah.
the tax that are in statute. So those changes, yeah, right. But going forward, the MAC could be done through an emergency or a regulation.
And
Jonathan
Jonathan has
Vaughn?
joined us. Yes.
Jonathan Scott.
Good morning. Sorry about that.
All right. We have a back question.
All right.
789 is not going anywhere, obviously. What's the ramifications of that? And, where are we at?
So we are still evaluating what's going to happen with 789. Don't really have a final update or anything like that at this point. It just we're gonna see what's happened at the end of this week, and then again at the end of session, and then we'll go forward and just kind of see what options are on the table with everything.
Language could be added to something that's about to pass if there's an appetite to do that, right?
Right. So that's still a possibility.
And I told folks that I think someone else said that the BAC could be done through regulation, but changes to the MAC can't be. Is that correct?
Again, I don't have an update on that. I can't comment just yet.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jonathan.
Good deal. All right. Thank you.
All right, Stuart. Now we can go into updates.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, sir.
Not a lot of major updates, but it is significant. Our care management team has been this year receiving a little more higher volume of referrals from individuals being discharged from incarceration. We've had 5 so far this year. In the past, it seemed like it'd be 1 a month, 1 every other month. So that's positive. And I do have just a little kind of a member success story that I'd like to share. It's a 35-year-old female. And we were notified as in January, within 2 days, our care management team was able to engage with her. And she has cervical cancer, and there's 35 years old, but she was released to her grandmother. So she's living with her grandmother and helping take care of her grandmother. But anyway, our care management team engaged with her and, showed her all the different value-added benefits, how to access them. She already had an oncologist lined up for the cancer treatment, but she did not have a PCP or a dentist, and she particularly had dental needs. So care management team helped her, hook up with the PCP and dentist. Offered to make the appointments for her. She didn't want that, but they stayed in touch with her. She also had some need for some durable medical equipment items, related to the cancer, and so the care management team helped her obtain all that stuff that she needed. And then they've continued to stay in touch with her to help make sure that she's going to her oncology appointments and offering, continuing to offer assistance to her. So, anyway, that just, I'd like to share that. And again, the volume is a little bit higher now. Not exactly sure why, but anyway, that's positive. But that's that's the well care update for the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan.
Mhm.
No, Stuart, wrong guy. United.
Yeah, good morning. This is Liz Milburn from United Healthcare. I agree with Stuart. We've had 2 referrals thus far from the state, which has definitely increased in volume for us as well. We have some internal data too as well that we're using to get connected to folks that have been released from incarceration. We've successfully reached 200 of them, and then 93 have agreed to case management. So definitely some positive strides.
You're working up there. Are you back?
I think we may have lost her.
All right, we can go back if he joins us. Passport.
Hey, it's Mark Zockham from Passport. We're also receiving, again, some referrals through the pilot. I know the most recent one was engaged into case management. I don't have any other details about that. Otherwise, our community engagement is doing what they're always doing. They just seem to be doing more of it. They've had 14 live events and 14 virtual events since the beginning of the year. They've got, I think, 5 more to go this month. Live and virtual events have been mainly reentry meetings, but the live events are pre-release meetings and classes, the hiring fairs, expungement clinics. I think there was one reentry simulator that they were involved with, and virtual reentry council meetings as well. We are also beginning to use our own data to identify folks and set up a program for them. We'll probably have who are recently incarcerated. We will certainly have more information on that by the next meeting. And that is our update.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mhm.
Appreciate it, Mark. Humana.
Good morning. This is Kelly Bendor from Humana. I also have just a few quick updates. Like all the other MCOs, we've actually had a huge increase in Q1 of our reentry program. We've actually had 9 members released, which is, like I said, a huge increase from 2024. And we've actually been able to reach most of these members, which is really exciting, and they're all doing well and have a lot of supports already in place. So that's great news for our reentry program. As for our community engagement team, they've also been really busy with events around Kentucky to support our members reentering society. They've attended reentry classes at several facilities, which include Kentucky Correctional Institution for Women, Luther Luckett, Kentucky State Reformatory, Rodair, and LaRue Detention Center. Our team actually attended an expungement clinic in Hopkinsville and have plans to attend one in Somerset tomorrow, as well as the Goodwill in Louisville later this month. And lastly, they attended 10-Co partner meeting for reentry on February 6th, a dental clinic at St. John's Shelter on February 24th, Women's Healing Place on February 28th, and the Commitment House on March 5th. So we have lots of good things happening in the community. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Good stuff. Any questions? All right, Edna.
Hey, good morning. This is Courtney Ham from Aetna. We at Aetna, our Sky is the supporting foster care contract. So we are busily readying ourselves for an influx of that. So we're doing staff education as well as outside education. I personally have attended virtual reentry meetings, as well as being involved in those discussions with DJJ. But I do have a couple colleagues on here. I didn't know if Lana wanted to mention any of the members she's been working with.
Yes, so thank you, Courtney. This is Lana. We have received also more referrals. We've received 5. So that's excellent. And we also have been using our own data and able to find members within Aetna that have been incarcerated. So we've been able to connect with them. I've also attended some reentry meetings. I've been in the community. So everything's going really good.
Just for a reminder, Lana is our designated reentry case manager. So we have that in place for the adult side, and we are working diligently on the other side. So I just wanted to give that update.
Any questions? I appreciate the reports.
And United have another try. I am back and rejoined.
How are you?
Good. All right. So Liz Milburn from United. Thus far, we've had 2 referrals from the state. Both have been unable to reach, but we do have internal data. We've successfully reached 200 of those members, and 93 have agreed to case management. So our numbers are looking good. We're connecting folks.
Thank you. Patty.
Thank you.
Big change. I mean, it's increasing numbers already. And that's due to the communication and the work that's been the planning phase that done with our MCO partners and Angela Sparrow and her Medicaid team. And young folks working on this, there's obviously more talk about it, becomes more available. Even before the waiver is approved, there's contact being made. So that's encouraging. Appreciate that.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Several of the MCOs mentioned the different events that they either have going on or that they've been attending. I was just curious if there's a place, what would be the best place to find out the information about those events? If it's just simply the MCO's social media pages, or if there's places on their websites, if there was any, currently, if there was already a centralized location to find out about community events like that for each MCO.
Good question.
So
is there a place people can go to?
So let me, Steve, this is Kristen Porter.
Yeah.
Let me answer for the Department of Corrections, and then the MCOs can answer for themselves too. For the Department of Corrections, the ones that we partner with the MCOs to host, we provide, if you go to the Kentucky Department of Corrections website under the reentry page, there's a tab on there that lists when community events are. And it lists, the location and the date and where they'll be and all of that. So you can look on there at the ones that we are a part of. Now, I know that some of the MCOs sometimes do them on their own too. So I won't speak for them on everything else that they're doing, but you can see the ones that we're involved with in that way.
Thank you, Kristen. Anybody from MCO, do you have a page where they're listed? Your events?
So, Steve, this is Stuart with WellCare, and I'm scrambling. I'm pinging our community engagement team. I do know on social media, I mean, we've got site, we post stuff like that. I don't know that it's on like all of us have member home pages. I'm not sure if we posted there, but anyway, I'm trying to find out, but I don't know right now for certain.
It's Mark from Passport. I'm putting a link in the chat where folks can go for Passport information.
There it is. And Angela posted the DOC link as well. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Katie Gardner. I'm with the Viral Hepatitis Program at the Kentucky Department for Public Health. I just had a question for the MCOs, just kind of a general question. And also, I want to respect if there are other folks that need to come off mute to talk about, the events that they're having. So I just wanted to give some respect for that. But hearing none, I was just wondering, there's a high prevalence of people with hepatitis C among people who have been incarcerated, obviously. And is connecting people who are released from incarceration to Hep C testing and treatment, is that a specific part of the case management? Like, is that sort of on a checklist? Like, this is something that we know, unfortunately, a lot of people are not getting treated while they're incarcerated, but when they're released, when they're connected to health insurance is a great time to start thinking about that. I was just wondering if that is a part, like a specific part of that process.
Anybody?
This is Liz Milburn from United. I mean, that is part of our assessment that we, when we're completing the assessment with the members and talk to them, we address those issues as well. And then we would then furthermore, if they did say they were positive for Hep C, would then link them to providers in the community to provide treatment.
Sorry, this is Kelly with Humana. It would be the same for us as well. We do extremely thorough assessments with all of our members that we are trying to get engaged in care management, especially the ones that are in this reentry program that are identified by the state. So yes, those would be addressed with them.
Yeah, and same Stuart with WellCare. We do an extremely comprehensive assessment. And back to the events, I'm told, so we post on Facebook page, on our Instagram page. We also post our members have accounts. There's a member site just for members, but you actually have to have an account, and alerts go there as well. But that most of the time, also the given organization that we're working with will advertise in the community.
And this is Mark from Passport. Ditto on the assessments. They're quite thorough, and there are many of them, but we usually catch everything that's there.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's great. That's great to hear. I'm just wondering then if, and I understand you don't have like specific numbers necessarily or whatever, but wondering if there is then success in getting people actually connected to treatment and cure.
This is Courtney from Aetna. I think that's a good takeaway. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I do feel like when I was working inside Kenton County, it was a very, very high percentage, almost like 90% of the clients had hepatitis C. So, but I think that's a good takeaway for Aetna if we wanted to talk about it next time.
Yeah. And Courtney, the takeaway is the answer to the last question Katie Gardner asked, right?
Sorry, I lost you.
Yeah, okay. You said it's a good takeaway. I want to make sure we understand what the takeaway is. Is that the follow-up to treatment?
Oh, I meant for as a takeaway, as like we could go back and just see if there's some numbers or there's some sort of, just see if there's any data that we have. That's all I was saying for to do next time.
Okay.
It also will be great once the reentry program starts, when the case management, the MCOs are able to talk to them when they're incarcerated.
Yeah.
We're able to link them, and I run a program similar in Ohio where we're able to link them, talk to them when they're incarcerated, then know that they have Hep C and make sure they have follow-up care afterwards.
Absolutely fantastic point by Elizabeth there.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to track that.
Once the 1115 is implemented again, and it will just be with the prison population. So we understand that the jail population is a larger population, but within the prison population, with the MCOs being able to engage in that 60-day pre-release timeframe, again, do those assessments pre-release. So they're, again, already part of that assessment, but doing those assessments pre-release. That will be part of the discussions. So while the demonstration does not currently cover treatment pre-release, except for the MAT services, that again is where we'll have discussions with our partners. So again, if that's identified pre-release, what does that treatment look like pre-release? Or again, ensuring that we at least have that plan in place for that at the time of release, connecting them to those community partners. So again, those are, I think, all the great discussions that are very forthcoming in those things that we'll see through the implementation.
Yeah, that all sounds great. I really appreciate all of this information as well as, sort of yeah, we would love whatever data that you have as a program. If you have data about success, failure, whatever, it would be great for us to know like how it's going connecting people upon reentry to hepatitis C care. We know it's difficult, but we know that increased case management is one way to do that. And also any resources that we can provide. We're working on currently some educational materials we'd love to share with you all once they are approved. Any education that we could provide to the MCOs, to the case managers. That's something that as a program, the viral hepatitis program at the state would be really happy to help with. And I'm going to put my email in the chat if anyone would like to reach out. Also, I might be kind of finding you all and reaching out to you as well.
I would love to have it. So I have reentry centers in all of the state prisons, and in those centers we have, of course, resource walls, basically, where we have flyers with pamphlets and things like that to give resources to the population for when they're releasing. So I would love to have copies of any information that you have that we can add to our resource centers.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will definitely get that your way, Kristen. Thank you so much for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Chad, there were several comments about other community events that may not be necessarily MCO listed on their website, and folks are asking, there's a place where those are available. And I know Nathan Thomas has posted a couple times, and he's on this TAC. Nathan, do you know of a source where those are posted?
Yeah, so I'm a part of, well, a lot of it's through social media, but I'm on multiple email groups also. Every Monday on this one specifically, it's generally recovery oriented, but it's not always recovery oriented. A lot of the times it is just community events and baseline. And we post, me and a friend of mine, we post every event that we can get a hold of statewide that's coming up either in that month or in that week, and so on. And when we talk about reentry, a lot of the people that'll be at these events will either have just left incarceration or, prior to. A lot of people, let's just be honest, from lived experience of what I've been there. So I do have multiple resources. I can begin to possibly, if you guys would like, I can find a way to maybe forward that email. It's only once a week or once a month. And it literally has like every event, community event.
Who sends that out?
Odell Hager. It's called Kentucky Outreach Resource. There's actually a Facebook page. Actually, let me see if I can find it real fast. It's very easy. Yes. Sorry, I'm actually about to meet him. Kentucky Outreach Resource is the actual page. Let me see if I can find the link for it. And it comes out. We do it every Monday. So try and find the link. I can email the link for the Facebook page specifically once I have a chance to find it. And it's an open page, so.
Now, if people went to Facebook and search Kentucky Outreach Resource, will those events be listed on that page as well?
I'm sorry, what is it?
If someone went to this Facebook page, are the events listed on the page?
Yes.
Okay. And there's the link there.
Yeah, I just sent the link for the Facebook page. I can also, we can add anybody to the emailing list too. So, so any MCOs or anybody that would want to receive, and I mean, it's multiple varieties. It's like tons of different information that's sent out. One large email at the first of the week on Mondays generally, and then not a bombardment after that. but has events, things that are going on in the community. We've been talking a lot about city ordinances and things of that nature recently. So, but it's a resource to have. So, if anybody would like to be added to that chat, I can put my email on here. And if they would like to be added, I can get them added. I'll put so if anyone would like to be added to that resource email, they can be added to that. I can have them added in almost immediately. So.
Good stuff. Glad you're here, Nathan.
Thanks for having me.
Any questions for Nathan Thomas? All right. Good stuff. All right. Thank you for that, Kate. Good questions. And the resource, I forget who asked that, but that's another good question. All right, let's move on. Round robin updates, federal Medicaid discussion. Again, we kind of touched on this. Obviously, we're all trying to figure out what happens. We've even heard Medicaid's not going to be cut, but they got to find $880 million. They can do that without cutting. That's kind of a miracle. But just so, and again, no great insight, but, we've heard discussion of the expansion population match rate changing, huge expense to Kentucky. It's now a 90-10. So for the expansion population, the Obamacare essentially, but that group of 30% of poverty, every 1% change is now a 90-10 match rate, right, Angela? And if that goes to drops a point to 89-11, that costs Kentucky $75 million for each point. So, and it is 90-10, right?
That I'm sorry, Steve, I'm not certain.
But I think that's close enough. So it goes to that number. So obviously, if there's a change in that, Kentucky has to find $75 million to maintain that. The other thing we're hearing about is block granting. What does that look like? We don't know. We've heard, and not personally, but it's been reported that Congressman Barr and Congressman Rogers have said we're not going to cut it, which means they could block grant it. And then it goes back to the states to decide how the dollars get spent. Is one possibility. Change eligibility and work requirement will be mandated. We've down that road already. There's a huge percent of the expansion populations currently working, but there'll be that piece. And if you're in school or you're caring for a family member, you may not have to have that requirement, but I think those are all things that are out there being talked about. And what does it look like? So, I've told people obviously there's a Medicaid bill in the General Assembly, House Bill 695, that creates the Medicaid Oversight Advisory Board that will that's the process that even Medicaid would go through and present to that board what happens next. It's made out of legislators, some community involved folks as well, modeled after a circuit board pension. But that's going to be where kind of the gateway to changes in services takes place. And this is all in the environment of what's the ramifications of that? What does it look like? I guess House Bill 9 actually does the MOAB, but 695 kind of tells Medicaid, slow down, don't expand without telling us. It has some language on prior authorization for behavioral health. They've added a feasibility study of managed long-term care, white populations and things like that, nursing homes. So there's, attention given to Medicaid right now. And those changes have created a lot of interest in what the ramifications. And then you mirror that, add that with the federal level. We don't know what's going to happen there. It's many folks are asking questions about what does Medicaid look like a year from now and what's included. So I think those are all topics that people are trying to figure out what happens next. And I think that the basic Medicaid Oversight Advisory Board will pass, that will be established, and then that will start to meet and see what happens. And then the 695 bill will make those changes. That's kind of linked to the Medicaid Oversight Advisory Board as well. Those other big changes, So it's a lot of right now moving parts, people trying to figure out what's going to take place. So anyone else on Medicaid? That kind of goes right to the legislative updates that were, those are the two big pieces that I think have gotten a lot of people's attention. Anyone else with legislative updates they want to share?
No, Steve, you did a good summary. I was just going to say it's kind of interesting with the 695 because the Senate's got a different version. It looks like they're going to have it queued up to vote Friday. And then the House, and essentially, I think they're going to have to compromise by midnight Friday because I don't think they want to let the governor leave it and the governor have the final say to veto. They want to pass it before. So their version's different than the House. And so I think Friday is going to be very interesting to see what.
Yeah. And procedurally, what happens is the bill, the House and Senate bills are different, and they have to go to a pre-conference committee, and they can negotiate. I told some other people when I speak to consumers about this, my example is the House can pass a cheese pizza, the Senate can pass a supreme pizza. They go to conference committee, and the final bill is chocolate cake because it's round. So anything can happen in that process, and then we go from there. But the point Stewart made, it needs to be resolved by Friday, because this is a 30-day session. Friday's day 28. They then take a 10-day break. They really come back on the 27th of March. It got to be done by the end of March, March 30th, for the short session, 30-day session. And the governor has 10 legislative days to veto a bill, and Saturdays count as a legislative day. So they go home for a break, and there's enough time during that period for, if there is a veto, to come back and override it. And if there's not a veto, a bill can become law, either signed by the governor or no action by the governor, or it can be vetoed, and then they can come back on that Thursday, the 27th or the 28th, and override the veto. The other thing that is an option in terms of this legislation is the House can concur, meaning the Senate changes, and we can go ahead with that. Procedurally, that can take place. The other piece is they cannot concur and ask the Senate to go back to the House version. But I think, ideally, conversations are taking place now of what does that look like, and it will be voted on by the Senate on Friday, because each chamber has 3 readings by title. House Bill 695, a bill relating to Medicaid. First reading was yesterday, a second reading today, and the third reading Friday with a vote. So Stewart's right. It's got to be done by Friday, or the governor can veto it, and then
Yeah, he'll veto, but they want to pass it before that so they can come back and override. If they wait till the end to pass it, he'll veto and they're dead. There's no bill. So I think they're determined to pass, and it may be late Friday night for the agreement.
Yeah. At one point, this is just a story, but it used to be they had a clock on the back of the wall, and if they were getting late in the session, they'd have to stop by midnight in this case, right? They would unplug the clock. That's true. They would do that. And therefore, every bill that's at 11:55. Then they went to a digital system where the official vote record, a timestamp on it. And they actually did that, and they passed 7 bills past midnight, and they came running in. Staff said, you got to stop. And those 7 bills were not enacted. The next year, they were actually passed. 6 of them were. 1 was never passed. So, yeah. So Friday night, midniit, digital world is midnight. It's not. The latest I've seen a bill pass is 1:30 a.m. But now you can't do that. So
that's a good fun fact. History,
legislative. There's no other legislative updates. The last thing, the Kentucky Judicial Commission on Health, they have a re-entry work group. If you're interested, and it meets next Thursday, October 20th at 1 p.m. if you need information, I don't know how to get on there. I can put my email address in the chat and I can get you the information, the link for that. And obviously, it's a virtual meeting if people are interested in that work group as well. See. Yeah. So send that information, get you the link. I always have future agenda items.
Steve, this is Erin. Can I ask a quick question going back on the hepatitis C treatments and things? Are we requesting data from the MCOs, or is that just an ongoing discussion that will carry to the next agenda? I just want to make sure if we're going to make a formal request, I get that out to them timely.
I think it's a formal request. I think we're going to follow up and what happens, and maybe we'll just add it as an agenda item. Does that make sense, Erin?
It does.
Okay.
So I will send that request out to the MCOs after this meeting to make sure they're prepared for next meeting.
Super.
Thank
That'd
you.
be great. Thank you much, Erin. All right. That's it. Next meeting, May 8th. Same time. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
See you at 2, Steve.
Yeah.